Hi, hello, welcome back. We are doing something we've never done before today. I've shared a lot of food ideas and recipes, and a lot of you know I track my macros, but I've never shown how I actually do that. So today I'm gonna take you behind the scenes, show you a full day of eating.
You can't eat cats, Kevin.
While also showing you step by step how I track my macros, the apps that I use, and I'll even share some tips along the way to make it a little bit easier. We're gonna start with a disclaimer because I feel like it's necessary with videos like this. I'm gonna be sharing what works for me. I'm not saying it's what's best for you or that it's the only right way to do it. At the end of the day, macro tracking is a tool. I personally have found that it's the best tool to help me reach my goals because it tends to be the most accurate, and it's also the most sustainable because no foods are off limits. It doesn't label foods as good or bad. It's just food, but you get a good idea of what is in the food that you're eating. So let's start with the first question. How do I know what my macros should be? You use a macro calculator. You should never have to pay for someone to find your macros. You can get them free online, but there are so many different calculators and they're each gonna give you slightly different numbers. My personal favorite is by the brand Macros Inc. They have a free calculator on their website. I will link it for you in the description box. Those are the macros I've been using for the past 3 years, and you also can post them in their free Facebook group and one of their coaches will check them for you. They also have a free ebook all about getting started with macro tracking, and I should probably say I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. They don't even know I exist. I just love them as a resource. Then, once you have your macros calculated, you need 2 things: a food scale that will measure in grams and an app. For the food scale, I have one by the brand Nicewell. It's just on Amazon. It's cheap. I've put together a list of my health and fitness favorites on Amazon, which will be linked down below. The food scale is on there. And then for apps, I use the app My Macros Plus or MM Plus. It has an orange logo. This is what it actually looks like. This is what most of the people in the Macros Inc. Facebook group use. I'm gonna be sharing some of the reasons why I love it as we go throughout the day, but one of the first things I love are the different views. So you can see how many grams of protein, carbs, and fats you have left. You can see how many you've eaten, and then you can even see them in like a bar format and almost like the rings. But once you have your app, you need to set your macros inside of it. So you can either click the little pencil icon here. From here, you can set different goals. You will notice I have my maintenance, moderate deficit, painful deficit, and surplus already in here. And you can add a new one by hitting the plus sign. You also can hit your settings down here and then go to set nutritional goals. And you're gonna go ahead and enter in your macros. Do not use the calculator down here. You gotta use the one on their website. So then you're ready to start tracking. And my biggest recommendation to you if you are new to tracking is take a week and just track what you're normally eating. Don't change any of your dietary habits.
I'm on the 3rd day of my cleanse diet.
But that will give you a good idea of what you're currently eating, and then you can make adjustments from there. But in order to show you why it's important to track macros and it's important to track them accurately, we're gonna use this protein bar, Built Bar, as an example. It is my favorite protein bar, but if you look at the label, according to this nutritional label, 1 bar, which it is saying is 50 grams, is 140 calories. However, where you get into trouble is these labels can be off by up to 20%. A lot of them will subtract fiber from the total calorie count in order to make it seem lower. Every gram of protein and carb have 4 calories, and every gram of fat has 9 calories. When it comes to fiber, there is soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Technically, insoluble fiber doesn't really have calories to it. The issue is a lot of labels like this, they don't tell you how much soluble or insoluble fiber, it just tells you how much fiber altogether. But regardless, they can get away with subtracting the fiber in order to make the calories seem lower. So this bar, in theory, should be 140 calories. I'm gonna show you how to create a custom entry within the app. So we're gonna actually input the information. It will give us an accurate calorie count, and then we're gonna weigh it to see what the difference is. Editing Michelle popping in here because I realized that was probably confusing, so let me clarify.
Okay, I'm seeing some confused faces out there.
If you are subtracting fiber and sugar alcohols from the total carb count, that's known as tracking net carbs. And some people choose to track net carbs, that's fine. I used to do that. Now I just track total carbs. So I don't subtract the fiber. I also don't subtract sugar alcohols, even though technically like erythritol tends to be 0.25 calories per gram rather than 4 calories per gram like a traditional carb. But a lot of labels don't break it down to tell you how many grams of each different sugar substitute is in it. So for just simplicity and ease of tracking, I track total carbs. That way, if anything, I might be overestimating, but I don't have to worry about underestimating. So within the app, we're gonna press the menu button, and then we're gonna choose Add Custom Food right here at the bottom. We're gonna give it a name. So for me, I'm gonna do Built Bar. And then because I eat a lot of these and they're all different flavors, I'm gonna put the flavor in parentheses. So candy cane brownie, but you can label it however you want. The brand is Built Bar. And then the serving size. We want it to be in grams rather than just putting one bar. We wanna make sure that it says 50 grams because we're gonna end up weighing the bar. So a serving size is 50 grams. Then down here, we're not gonna enter anything for the calories. As I enter my macros, it's gonna automatically calculate that for me. So we're gonna start with fat, and looking at the bar, it has 2.5 grams of fat. You'll notice my calories are already updating. You don't have to enter in like the saturated fat. I personally do if it's on the label, but it's not a huge deal as long as you enter the fat, carbs, and protein. Moving on to carbs, there are 21 total carbs. Of those, there's 6 grams of dietary fiber and 6 grams of sugar. Protein is 17 grams. And then once again, you don't have to enter like the cholesterol and the sodium, but if you want to, you can. So 5 and 100. Then you can give it a category. So I'd probably put this under other, but you don't have to. And you will notice it is telling me that a 50-gram serving of this bar is actually 174.5 calories. And I'm gonna click save. Do I want to enter it? Yes, because I'm gonna now show you the difference in weighing it. So the reason we weigh our food in grams using a food scale is because a lot of times the recommended serving size is not 100% accurate, especially with things like protein bars. You will find some foods that are right on the nose of what it says it should be. I had a pack of beef jerky the other day that to the gram was exactly what it was supposed to be. But this bar is supposed to be 50 grams. If I turn on my scale and I place the bar on it, let me make sure my unit is on grams. It's telling me that the bar is 59 grams. Now, obviously the wrapper is on it and I'm not eating the wrapper. However, I've eaten enough of these to know that the wrapper only weighs about 1 gram. So even if I subtract a gram, so let's put it in, it's now saying 58, so let's go 57 grams. According to my app, this bar is actually 199 calories. So that was a difference of basically 60 calories. If I just entered this as 140, in reality, it was 200. That's a difference of 60 calories. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if everything I'm eating throughout the day is off by 25, 50 calories, I can end up being over in calories by a few hundred by the end of the day. So if you are new to tracking, I recommend going through your fridge, your pantry, adding in all of the foods that you eat at one time as custom entries. Do not rely on barcode scanners because a lot of times the information is not added in accurately. It will take an hour or two depending on the foods that you have, but you will find that you eat the same foods over and over again. Like pretzels, I always have pretzels. I always have protein bars. And once they're added into your app once, you're good to go. For things that don't have a nutrition label such as an apple, I recommend using the USDA website in order to get the macro information. And again, this is something you would weigh because apples come in all different shapes and sizes. The first thing that I track every day is my coffee creamer, or if I put a protein shake in my coffee. It depends on what I'm planning on eating that day and whether I'm gonna be short on protein or not. But today we're doing coffee creamer. I used to eyeball it and quickly realized I was pouring in almost double what I was actually tracking. Now, something like this is tricky because it's giving me the serving size in tablespoons or milliliters because this is a liquid. Now, even though my scale measures milliliters, it's only accurate for water. So something like this, I would track using tablespoons. I ain't putting teaspoons, I'm putting tablespoons in. So I typically do 3 tablespoons of creamer. it's what I like. And also it's a big cup.
Because look at this normal size coffee cup.
Here's a little hack. Instead of measuring it out like this every single time, that takes too much time. What I did is I measured it out once and I weighed how many grams that was on my scale. So even though I measured it in tablespoons, I went, oh, when I pour it in, it was 64 grams. That number is burned into my brain. So instead of measuring it out like this, I'm going to put my cup on the scale and then turn it on. That's one of the first things you have to learn how to do, is how to get the scale to 0. And one way to do that is to put whatever food item or like bowl, spoon, whatever it is that you're not measuring onto the scale first. And then when you turn it on, it will be at 0. But if I didn't do that, so let's like turn it off and back on, it's now showing 0. I can put this on and then just press the tear button. I'm pretty sure it's tear. So now I'm gonna pour in my coffee creamer until it gets to 64 grams, because I know from past experience that 3 tablespoons is equal to 64 grams. 63, close enough. And then I just pour in my coffee. Now, this seems like it's taking a long time because I am explaining it. I don't measure my coffee, by the way. It's like 5 calories. It's not worth it. But in reality, all I'm doing is putting the food scale underneath and then looking at the number as I pour the creamer. It doesn't take that long when you get into the habit. And then I even keep my scale right here in that drawer. And then in terms of entering it in the app, I'm just gonna click track now. It's gonna open up that same menu. I already have it entered as a custom food. So I'm gonna click my customs. I'm gonna search, and I know it's Hershey's. So as I start to type that, it will come up here. I'm gonna select it. I'm gonna change where I want the meal to go. So it is not an evening snack, it is breakfast, and you can edit those meal names however you want. And again, it was 3 tablespoons, so it has calculated everything for me. I click the check mark, and it now is tracked on my day. I can see my daily totals at the bottom, and then I can also see my numbers changing up here. Now, I really like to front load as much of my protein as I can, so I like to get it in early in the day so I'm not crunched to get it in at night. So for breakfast, I am mixing non-fat Greek yogurt, which a serving of this, which it tells you 3/4 cup, but it's 170 grams, has 16 grams of protein with a scoop of protein powder. I'm currently trying to get rid of this protein powder. I liked it. I'm just ready for something else. This is the Alani Nu whey protein in the flavor Munchies. It's kind of like a sweet and salty mixture, but 1 scoop, which is 31.6 grams. I typically just do 28 grams because that's what a lot of the other scoops are, but that has about 20 grams of protein. So, little trick for you. For something like Greek yogurt, rather than putting my bowl on this scale and measuring it that way, I'm actually gonna take the lid off and put the Greek yogurt on the scale. So when I turn it on, the scale will be at 0, and I'm gonna use negative grams. So as I scoop out my Greek yogurt into the bowl, it's gonna show right now negative 39 grams because I've scooped out 39 grams of Greek yogurt. So I'm gonna keep going until I get to 170. Although keep in mind, serving sizes, just recommendations. You know, if I was feeling 200 grams, I could. But what's great about this is I don't have to account for what's on the spoon. So there's my Greek yogurt. Now for the protein powder, I'm just gonna put the spoon on. I'm gonna press the tear button. It's gonna go back to 0, and I'm gonna scoop out the protein powder until I get to 28 grams. Okay, that's 26. So I'm gonna get just a little bit more, although if I wanted just 26, I could do that too. 27, 28, okay. So let me show you a trick for entering it in the app. First of all, this is what it looks like. It's not pretty, but it does taste good, and it has like 33 grams of protein. So I could go in and individually add each item just like I showed you before. So I could type in Greek yogurt and add in 170 grams, but I'm gonna show you a little hack. Once you've started tracking, I can go to yesterday, and I actually had this as like my lunch technically. I already have the Greek yogurt and the protein powder entered here. I'm gonna hold down on it. This little window pops up, and I'm gonna choose copy to today, and I wanna copy it to my breakfast. Hit dismiss, go back to today, and it has already put it on there. Now, if this is a breakfast I plan on having like every single day, I can also hold down on it, choose save, and it's gonna create what's called a recipe. So I could call this daily breakfast and click done, save. So then tomorrow when I go to track my food, I can go to recipes. I can find daily breakfast, boom. And then when I save it in, I could either add it as a single item and it would just show daily breakfast, or I can add individual ingredients and it will pop them on there for me to save time. A few hours have gone by. I am ready for lunch. And lately I've been on this chicken coleslaw concoction kick. It's essentially coleslaw with chicken in it, but it's very easy to make. It's delicious and it's very voluminous. Like, you get a lot of it, which I love. So unlike what I showed you with my Greek yogurt, where I'm just getting out my serving and eating it right then, this is something where I would make a big bowl of it and then eat it over the next 2 to 3 days. So I'm gonna show you how I track that. So all you need is chicken, which you could shred your own chicken. To save time, I just bought a thing of pre-shredded chicken from the store. Coleslaw, which I'll put a picture of the coleslaw mix I usually use. The store was out, so this is like a coleslaw kit, but I'm not using the dressing. I'm just using like the cabbage slaw mix that's in it. And then for the sauce that goes on it, I make it using Greek yogurt, apple cider vinegar, little Dijon mustard. I add in a little bit of stevia for sweetness and then just salt and pepper. But the only things I'm gonna actually track are the chicken, the coleslaw mix, the Greek yogurt, and the Dijon mustard, because vinegar, at least apple cider vinegar, it has like trace amounts of carbs. It's not even worth tracking. 0 calories, and then obviously things like herbs and spices and seasonings and things I don't typically track because most of them do not have any macros in them. So in the app, I'm gonna go to the menu button, go to recipes, and I'm gonna create a new recipe. I'm gonna call this chicken coleslaw. And for now, I'm just gonna leave the servings as 1, but we'll come back to that. I'm gonna add all my ingredients and I'm gonna come to customs and faves. This is why I recommend adding all of your things in from the get-go, because it makes it much easier. So shredded chicken, coleslaw, Dijon mustard, and Greek yogurt. Okay, so now when I go back, those are all here. As I measure these out, I'm just going to change those amounts. We're gonna start by making the sauce, and I'm using my Ninja like individual blender. What I do love about this is because I've made it before, I now know the exact amounts of everything that I need, and that way when you find a recipe you really love, you can easily replicate it. So I'm doing 115 grams of Greek yogurt. Then I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons. I think last time I did 2 and then added a little bit more of vinegar, but this I'm measuring out just the liquid so that it matches my recipe, but I'm not actually tracking it. Then I'm going to add about 7 grams of Dijon mustard. So currently I already have this on the scale. I'm just going to tare it so it goes to 0, and then I'm gonna squeeze in Dijon mustard until I get to about 6-7 grams. Okay, that's good, 6. And then I'm gonna add in 1 pack of stevia, but I don't need to track or measure it, just throw that in. And then a little bit of salt and pepper just to taste, and I'm gonna blend this up to create my sauce. So now I'm going to mix it all together. I'm gonna put my bowl on the scale, turn it on so that it is including the weight of the bowl. So right now it says 0. I'm gonna go ahead and weigh out my coleslaw mix. I took out the dressing, so it's just the cabbage. And I have 213 grams, which I'm gonna go ahead and add into the app. Don't worry, I will show you this in a second, but just so I don't forget. So that was 213. I'm gonna add in my chicken. So I'm gonna tare it so it goes back to 0. And last time I think I added about 320 grams of chicken. So that's what we're gonna go for again. I washed my hands, I promise. Plus I'm the only one eating it anyway. Let's just go 300. I feel like that's good. Okay, and a little piece for Ember. Sit. Okay. Now, I'm going to tear it again, and I'm going to, actually I technically didn't have to tear it, but I'm going to pour on my sauce. I've already measured everything in here, so I don't really need the weight of the sauce, but I get that all in here. Okay, and that was 147 grams of the sauce. So, I want the total weight of everything that is now mixed in here, which technically I can just add together those 3 different parts. So I had 147 from the sauce, 300 from the chicken, and then I had 213 from the slaw. So that gives me a total weight of 660 grams. What I could also do is just weigh the entire bowl. So I can start at 0, put the whole thing on, and then subtract the weight of the bowl. I will show you in my app how I keep track of all my bowl weights. So in my notes app, you will see that I've already measured out and weighed each of the different like pots and pans and skillets and bowls that we have. So if I ever need to reference it and subtract the weight, I can. But that total weight was 660 grams. I'm gonna enter that under the total servings. Now, when I click done, I have all the ingredients that went in. This was the total amount that it made. I'm gonna click update. When I add this in, so this is my lunch, I'm gonna type in however much I weigh out. So if I weigh out 300 total grams to eat for lunch, it's gonna automatically calculate that based on what I have entered in for the recipe. And then I can choose to add it as individual ingredients or as a single item. Since this is like one big thing that I'm making, I'm just gonna click single item. And now under my lunch, it shows chicken coleslaw, and I'm having 300 servings, which is just 300 grams. This is what it looks like. It's not super pretty, but again, it's good. I'm going to put my bowl on the scale, turn it on. It will start at 0, and then I'm just weighing out 300 grams or however much I want. And you'll see it's a nice big serving. Okay, so this is my 300 gram serving. So it's a nice big bowl. And this has a total of 255 calories, almost 40 grams of protein, almost 8 grams of carbs, and then 7 grams of fat. And I know that this is something that will keep me full for a few hours. So basically, I use that recipe function whenever I'm mixing a bunch of ingredients together, and then I'm just gonna be portioning out different sizes. So if you are meal prepping at the beginning of the week, that's a great way to do it. Or if you're cooking for a family and you're mixing everything together and then you plan on just portioning it out, you can utilize the recipe function to have an accurate representation of the ingredients inside. Obviously, it's not 100% because I might be spooning out a little more chicken one time than the next when I'm actually portioning it out, but it at least gives you a rough estimate. Snack time. Usually I try to have a carb heavy snack before going to the gym for my workout. Today is a rest day, so it doesn't really matter in terms of the timing of like my carbs throughout the day. But I did notice looking at my app, I was low on fiber. And besides protein, carbs, and fats, the only other number I pay attention to is my fiber. I like to get between 20 and 30 grams a day, you know, just to keep things regular. So this is what the snack looks like tracked, and Bridget is texting me, but this is a great source of fiber. So it's just an English muffin with peanut butter, because I also noticed I was a little low on fats, and then some of these sugar-free with fiber strawberry preserves on top. So it's kind of like a PB&J, and then an apple. And this is why we measure things. If you look at the English muffin nutrition label, it says that one muffin should be 57 grams. However, when I actually measured it out, this one weighed 65 grams. So it was 147 calories instead of 120. Again, not a huge deal, but those little bits do add up. It is dinner time. I am making goulash, which is one of my favorites because I make a big pot of it and then I have leftovers throughout the week and it's ready in under 30 minutes. I will link the recipe, and also I think my dad made a video showing how to make it down in the description box. But because this is something I've made before, technically, I already have a recipe in my phone. And because I'm in maintenance mode, I would just use this same recipe. I wouldn't measure things out as I made the goulash. I would only measure out my serving, just like I showed you with the chicken coleslaw earlier. But if you are trying to be very accurate, I would suggest measuring it each time. Because I'm in maintenance mode, it wouldn't be a huge difference in terms of the macros, but if you wanna be accurate, I'm gonna show you how to take a recipe you've already made like this and just adapt it. Now, because we are making it in this pot, and this is what I will be weighing at the very end, the first thing I'm gonna do is just get a weight of the pot. Technically, I already have this weight in my app, so I already know it, but 910 grams. Now, as I add in each ingredient, I'm going to weigh it and then just adjust it in the recipe because the ingredients are already here. So for example, ground beef. Now I'm going to stick this whole thing on the scale. I'm going to tear it so it goes to 0. I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna open it up carefully. I'm going to plop in the meat. Now I'm gonna place just the wrapper back on the scale and it will tell me the difference, which is the meat. So 456 grams, last time it was 545 grams. So I'm gonna adjust this to 456, click save, and I'm just gonna repeat that for each of the different ingredients. So now for something like the onions, I'm gonna put it on, tear it, dump them in, and put the container back on. So that was 201 gram of onion. So I'm gonna come to onion, change it to 201, save, repeat with green pepper, tear it, dump it, put it back on, and that was 204 grams of bell pepper. So I'm gonna adjust that to 203, save, and there we go. So for things like my chicken broth, this is just measured in milliliters. It's about 400, and that's actually the same as last time, so I can leave that. I'm just gonna repeat the process until I've measured out all the ingredients, following the recipe, which again is down below. So if you're interested in how to actually make it, you can read that. So now it's done cooking. I need the final total weight to put in for my servings. But since the pot is high, I'm gonna put one of these, I call them a cookie, but a pot underneath holder thing. I'm gonna turn on the scale so it's not including the weight of the pot holder. I'm going to just put the pot on, quickly get the weight, so 30, 32, and I'm going to subtract the 910. So 30, 32 minus 910 gives me the total weight of 2122. I'm gonna enter that under the total servings up here, 2122. Click done, update it, and now I can enter it for my dinner. So I'm just going to put my bowl on. I'm going to tear it, and then I'm just going to weigh out however much I want. We should probably get closer because I'm gonna make a mess. Oh yeah. Okay, so a nice big bowl. It came out to 483. So I'm gonna enter 483, check. And I'm just gonna add it as a single item. And so now under my dinner, I have that. It was 31.8 grams of protein, 37.7 grams of carbs, and 4.8 grams of fat for a total of 321 calories. Now we are on to my favorite part of the day, my evening snacks, AKA my macro cap. This is essentially where I just eat whatever macros I have left. And I will say, I strategically save a lot of my, not a lot, but a fair amount of my macros for the evening time because I know that I am an evening snacker. It's part of my nighttime ritual and I enjoy it. However, it's also a rest day, so I have more flexibility. If I have a really hard workout, I might have to eat more earlier in the day around my workouts. But this is where on the app, I'm gonna switch over to the view where it shows me what I have left. It's basically like playing a game of Tetris. The goal is not to hit every single macro like to the gram. Instead, what I focus on is number one, I have to hit my protein. So right now I have just under 14 grams of protein left. Then from there, I focus on my calories. I want to meet my calories, or I can be a little bit under, and in those cases, I typically kind of bank them for the next day. I also look a little bit at my fat because I don't want to be too low on fat. But other than that, I can go over on protein as long as I'm still at or under my calories. I can go over on carbs, I can go over on fats. It's not a big deal as long as my calories stay under. And then looking at my fiber, I have basically 25 grams. So I'm good. If I get more fiber, great, but otherwise I'm good to go. So I really want to dive into this Enlightened tonight. Now, I'll be honest, on most days, what I would typically do is actually pre-track a treat like this that I know I want at night. That way, I know it's already accounted for in my macros and I don't have to worry about running out of macros and not being able to have it. But I'm gonna go into my custom entries. I'm gonna start to type in Enlightened. And you might notice that I have started putting the total amount of grams. So it tells me there are 3 servings per container. Each serving is 100 grams. So the whole thing has about 300 grams. So I just have it in the entry as a reminder. I'm gonna log this as 150 grams. Now, if I want to be 100% accurate, I would weigh this, eat whatever I'm gonna eat, and then reweigh it and find the difference. However, because I am in maintenance, I'm not worried about it being 100% accurate, so I'm just gonna assume that this is 300 grams. If it's off by a little, it's fine. And I plan to eat half tonight and half tomorrow, so I'm gonna log it as 150 grams tonight and 150 grams tomorrow. If I eat a little more tonight and a little less tomorrow, it still balances out. So now I have just under 5 grams of protein left. I know I want something salty, so I'm gonna have these popcorners, the kettle corn, and the typical serving size is 28 grams, which is an ounce. So I'm gonna add that in, and I might have to open up the other bag. There's not a whole lot left. Now I'm down to just under 3 grams of protein, which is perfect because I want this Reese's Tree, and I know that one of them has 2 grams of protein in it. Bet you didn't know that. So Reese's Tree, now I will actually weigh it, but I've been weighing them the past few nights and they're pretty much all 17 grams. So I'm gonna log it as that. So now I'm down to under 1 gram of protein left. And honestly, as long as I'm within 5 grams of protein, I usually don't worry about it because I do go over on some days. So now I have about 200 calories left. You know what I could have? I could have some of that almond nog that we need to get rid of in the fridge. So I'm gonna type in almond nog and I'll do 8 fluid ounces. Okay, so I've hit my protein. I'm close enough to my fats. I have 115 calories left, but I know that tomorrow I have a heavy squat workout and I would rather be able to eat a little bit more tomorrow. So I'm gonna bank those calories and just have an extra snack before my workout tomorrow. So that is it. I know it might have seemed overwhelming, but I promise the more you do it, the easier it gets if it's something you're interested in. I've been tracking macros for several years now, so it's easy for me. And a lot of this is just habitual. But one last hack for you, if you're like me and you tend to eat a lot of the same meals throughout the week, I will copy the day to the next day. So within the app here, I'm just gonna click the 3 dots and then from here I can select copy day and I can choose the day I wanna copy it to. So for example, tomorrow. And now if I go to tomorrow, it already has everything inputted. And let's say instead of 300 grams for lunch, I only have like 275. I can just adjust it from there and I'm good to go. So this makes it really easy if you do tend to eat a lot of the same meals. But if you have any questions, leave them down below. I know it seems overwhelming. I promise, it's really not that hard. You can do it, I believe in you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.